strategist with over 20 years of professional experience. He's a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana and National Institute of Marketing Nigeria. He is also a member of the Chartered Institute of Marketing UK. Michael is currently the president-elect of the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana, and he is also the CEO of MGA Consulting Ghana Limited. And to our guest for today, we are honored to have Paul Doona as our guest for today's session. So Paul is a seasoned and results-driven professional with over 16 years of experience in management, business development, and sales, particularly within the FMCG industry across Ghana and West Africa. He's currently the country manager of Ala Foods Ghana and West Africa. Paul has built a reputation for leading high-performance teams and successfully driving business growth in highly competitive and challenging markets. As the country manager of Ala Foods, he oversees operations and business development across 13 West African countries, managing a revenue portfolio of 20 million euros with full profit and loss responsibility. Under his leadership, he has successfully grown the Ghana cluster by 8% despite facing tough economic conditions. Paul's strategic approach to sales, business development, and distributor management has resulted in stabilized export sales, particularly in Liberia and Cote d'Ivoire, reinforcing Ala Foods' brand visibility and market positioning in the region. Before joining Ala Foods, Paul held various leadership roles at Nestle Ghana, where he managed multi-regional operations and launched key products like SMA infant nutrition in Sierra Leone and Liberia, resulting in consistent double-digit growth. Paul holds a master's degree in international affairs and diplomacy from the University of Ghana and a Commonwealth Executive Master's in Business Administration from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. So this afternoon, we are privileged to have this distinguished guest as part of our session. Now, before I turn over the time to the host for today, just a quick overview about some housekeeping rules or engagements rules that we are supposed to take note of. Now, this session is also being streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Aside the Zoom platform, our social media handles, these platforms that I've mentioned, the session is also being streamed live. So we can also have a broader audience so that everyone can enjoy the session. Now, the session is 1 hour. And at the end of the session, there's going to be some time allocated for questions and answers where the host and our guests are going to deliberate on some of the questions that will be discussed. And when you have questions, feel free to drop in the chat and it will be read out for discussion. And as the conversation is going on, when we have further comments, we can do so in the chat session of the platforms, of the various platforms. So be it Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, the chats or comment session is open for comments or for you to drop your thoughts. Now, before I hand over the session to our host for today, I would like to take some expectations from some of our participants. So because of time, I'll just take 2 expectations. So 2 people who would like to share what they expect to take from this session or what they are looking at deriving from this session. So any 2 people to quickly tell us their expectation in about 30 seconds. 2 people who would like to share with us what they are looking at learning from this particular session on harnessing the potential of the next generation of sales leaders. So you can do so by indicating your hand up in the comment section or just raising your hand so that I'll call upon you to tell us what you are expecting to take away from this session. Any volunteers to help out? Okay, so there's a comment from Sapon Christopher. So he says his expectation is to have current knowledge that will be helpful in the future of sales professionals and how to leverage available tools and AI technology to improve sales. Thank you, Christopher. This is actually in line of one of the discussion areas we are looking at today. Thank you very much, Christopher. Okay, so I think because of time, we'll quickly move on to our session for today. So I'll hand over the time to our host for today's session in the person of Mr. Michael Labio, and he's going to take over the conversations with our guests for today. And they're going to deliberate, and we will have the opportunity to also ask questions and engage them. Thank you, and I'll be back.
Thank you very much, Joyce Lane, and I want to say a very good afternoon to all our listeners. It's great to have you here again. We met last week. For those of you who joined our session last week, and we're meeting again today, and we're happy to be your way. And today is going to be exciting because we have Paul, and earlier we were having a discussion. I was having a discussion with Paul, and the whole concept of our environment is that we have, being sales executives, and we have risen through the ranks. And today he's a country manager for 2 countries. And it's actually an encouragement for those who are coming up. So it's really not about coming to talk to you about what is in the books, but it's to share experiences, and that's why I'm very excited to have you here, Paul. Paul, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Great. Well, you realize that there's this National Sales Leaders Conference that is coming in, and it's a project that is powered by MGA Consulting, and it's our great belief and understanding that there is a gap, and the gap has indeed been created when it comes to sales leadership. We have the old dogs, which is people like yourselves and that are basically inching out. They are now CEOs, and then there are those that we train that are also picking up. But sometimes also when you look far ahead, you realize that, and you ask your question, can the young generation, the next generation, be able to take over? So before we start, let me just ask you, pick your initial thoughts about this whole environment of empowering and the next generation of sales leaders. Why is it even important for us to have on sales leaders, and even not now, but we are looking at the next generation? Why is this important? Your initial thoughts.
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying a big thank you to Michael and the team. I believe this platform is good radiance for the sales team, not just the sales team, but the bigger business community. Because I'm just reflecting 10, 15 years ago, we didn't have anything like this. So that means that when we started sales, and even proud to when I finished school, I was 17, 18 years ago, there was nothing like this. So people had to learn the hard way. If you don't have a good manager who will be ready to teach you, to take you through the rudiments of sales and stuff, you just have to be by yourself. You would just have to go through the motions, and if you happen to survive, all the better. So I think this platform, this series, the whole National Sales Leaders Conference, it's a brilliant idea, and it would help the incoming sales leaders avoid the pitfalls that we had when we began sales. So that for me is very important, and I'm happy that Michael is championing this initiative. I think the whole idea of harnessing sales leaders is vital, and it's vital based on my earlier submission that we don't want future sales leaders to make the same mistakes that we did when we began sales. Some people happen to find themselves in sales. Some people set out that I want to be a salesman, I want to be a sales leader. So they start schooling and everything with that mindset. Some people happen to be in sales. So it's whether you found yourself in sales or you decided to pursue sales, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is that there is a platform or there are people out there who will be ready to take you through the rudiments, to guide you, to mentor you, to coach you, so that the things that we went through, the difficulties and the challenge, at least will give you guidance. We're not saying that the situation is the same, no, but we know that, and we know a few tricks here and there that we can share with you so that when you meet similar situations, at least based on what you heard, you don't find yourself in that situation. So I think that that's my view of it, and it's a step in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Paul. This whole thing, and I remember when I started, I was talking about this leadership gap. There was a study by Brandon Hall Group, and interesting revelations where they say 77% of the organizations that they studied, 77% of the organizations reported leadership gap. And not only that, but with many of them struggling to develop the strong leaders among their young employees. And one of the reasons why we set up the National Sales Leaders Conference is that we can foresee there is an impending gap that is coming, where you have that lack of quality that is needed in order to lead and drive sales team.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go and recruit, and I have a recruitment agency, and you have a lot of our customers coming, okay, we need this manager, that manager. Or sometimes you enter into an organization and you're supposed to do an HR audit, and then you go and audit the salespeople, and then you're looking at the quality of this person that they are calling the sales leader. This person is supposed to lead the team. And in one case, for instance, I actually had to write a letter to the chief executive and say that, let me show you something. Your problem in the northern sector is not your salespeople. It's even not your sales managers. It is your zonal manager. That one person, move that one person, and your sales will go up. Now, how do organizations prepare for this gap? How do we plan in order not to fall into this gap?
So I like the bit of use pinch or pushing it towards how organizations plan for this gap. I remember about just before I stepped out of Nestle in 2018, I happened to speak to a group of young medical delegates. So in Nestle, every infant nutrition, they have medical delegates who deal with it. They are more like the marketeers there. And they had come to a session and they wanted, I had to give them a speech. And I told them that do not wait for what the organization will do for you. But as early on in your career, you need to have an aspiration and work towards that aspiration. Because if you are going to wait for what the organization is going to do for you, there are so many people out there. But you, as the individual who has just joined or who has just joined the company, you need to have an aspiration and have a roadmap as to how you want to grow and develop yourself. So that I am bringing that in because the organizations can do whatever they want to do to help train sales leaders. But when the person that they have identified to be the next sales leader doesn't have the drive and the determination to say, listen, this is the level I want to get to, and I'm ready to follow the process. I'm ready to take myself through the process and learn to become who that next sales leader that I want to be. It is just not that will not be possible. Now let's come back to the organizations. Organizations have a lot of work to do to be able to train the next batch of sales leaders. I know we are in tough times where there's constraint on costs, and so many things are happening. So now the first budget to cut when they are calls to cut costs is, let's look at the training one. And so then we cut it, because what the organization can offer is basically getting coaching, training, mentorship sessions for these leaders, these next generation leaders. But then when there are constraints on cost and we cut, then it becomes a problem. So I think our organizations should continuously work at mentoring, coaching, providing training sessions for the next generation of sales leaders. But more importantly, I bring it back to the individual person, the individual involved. If you yourself are not ready to challenge yourself, to more importantly go through the process, go through the rudiments of what to do to grow to the next level, it becomes an impossible adventure. So that's my take on it, both on the organization side, but more importantly on the part of the individual working towards it.
You know, as business leaders, we are trying and hoping that we'll get the next generation. And that's what, and it's interesting when you bring the issue of capacity building and training up. And there's been, I've gone to a commercial entity, and then they have their whole training program, and then they have pension training, financial management training, emotional intelligence training, which is the new kid on the block. So they do all these things. And sometimes you realize that they say that, the salespeople, the sales leaders, they are busy. They are running the numbers. We can't pull them to come and sit down for 2 days or 3 days to be trained. How do we handle that? Because honestly, as a trainer myself and as a sales trainer, I've had that interactions with people, and I try to let them understand. But we'll come to the individual side of this discussion. But I wanted to tease out, what is the corporate role? So, for instance, for you and for Ala Foods, how are you preparing for this impending gap that is on the horizon? Paul, you are muted.
Oh, sorry. One of the things that we do in Ala Foods, maybe let me share that practical bit of it. We have two kinds of objectives for the year. We have the performance objectives, and then we have a developmental objective. And everyone is mandated not just to have a performance objective, but individual objective, developmental objectives. And that comes from the top. You need to, after we give the performance objective, this is what we are going to drive as a business. And the business ensures that everyone has that objective, and it's incumbent on the line manager. So let's say, in my case, my various management team members, in the case of the sales leaders, the various sales managers, that you need to ensure that there's a developmental objective, at least two, for your team. And you need to also have a roadmap. So there's a session between the HR manager and all the management team members, all their team members. So let me scale it down to sales. And the sales manager has to put all these things up, and they work at it. There's a monthly, there's a quarterly review to ensure that not just the performance objective, which is what everybody's driving, deliver this target, deliver this coverage ambition, deliver, those ones are there. But then the development objectives is meant to prepare these young sales managers to be sales leaders in the future. So I believe that organizations should make it a point. It's not just about training, it's not just about mentorship, because sometimes it's hard to bring sales people into the office. But when you let the person own the development, that is one. And then you also make it mandatory on the day of the training. When you have it, everything has to be put on hold, and get the guys to concentrate. So what we used to do in Nestle was that they will take you out of Accra, go and find somewhere you don't have your phones and everything, so that you can concentrate. Because there's a training bit, that's the in-person classroom, and then there's a coaching and mentorship bit, which forms a bigger chunk. You as the trainer, I'm sure you have all the terms and stuff for it, but then the classroom bit is important, but then the mentorship and coaching thing is key. But then the organization, CEOs, MDs have to make it mandatory. That's just as the performance objectives are key, the development objectives should be as crucial as the performance objectives. That would be my take on it.
One of the things that you would have seen, and actually the direction you were looking at it is from the perspective of the individual.
Yeah.
And if you when I was listening to you, you realize that we're looking at the individual taking a personal decision for themselves,
Yeah.
personal decision to be able to build themselves up and get themselves ready for these leadership opportunities. Now, my question is this: are there traits, are there things that we should look out for in these individuals to then know that, okay, these people have the qualities and the traits to become the next leaders, and so as to be able to coach and mentor them?
So one of the things is that, as I think I began by saying that the person has to show the drive, because I remember when I started my sales career, there were people that you began with, but today people have changed professions, they are doing something else, and all of them. But the first thing has to be with the individuals, which you need to see clearly. When you sit at the top, you should be able to identify who a talent is and all of them. That's the first thing. The person needs to have the drive. The second thing for me is that the person is willing. The person must be willing to learn. So that skill is trainability. I want to learn. I'm willing to avail myself to go through the process. So that is the I think that forms about 50% of the skill set. That if the person is willing to be trained and willing to be mentored, willing to go through the procedure, because you may think that it is nice to be the sales head. It's nice to be, let's say, the CEO, but usually some decisions that you take at the top, you are able to tap into your past years experience of the things you started learning, because at the top, as a sales as a leader, it is decision making. So if you're not ready to go through the process and go through the procedure to become that person, you miss out on it, because when they bring the things to you to take decisions, you didn't avail yourself to go to. So what are you going to tap into to be able to help take that needed decision that you need to take? So that's one, the person availing himself; two, the person being willing is ready to be trained. And I think the third thing also is the person also being a resource oriented, resource focused person, because there are too many things to chase. But for a salesperson, your numbers make you. You know your numbers. You're always going for a number. Somebody who's ready to, who makes results, or who makes results or performance the main thing. That is what I think, that these are the three things. That there are other things, there are other skill sets that you can look at. You can always break it down, all of them. But then one, the person is ready to avail himself to be trained, and the person also being a resource oriented resource, because sales is about numbers. Yeah.
Paul, I was in a training session. I was delivering a training session, and we finished the training and we're done. Certification. We're just about to issue certificates, and one of the participants, one is a manager, said, Mr. Abiu, there's something that is bothering me. So I said, okay, yeah, last question, I would admit that, or although we are done, please, voice out, let me hear you. What's the situation? And his situation, his problem is very simple. He's a sales leader. And he just does not understand the current crop of employees, sales officers that there is. And he's a bit, stressed on how to manage them. He's used all the various tricks that we use at our time, threaten them, carrot and stick approach. And he's saying that, the things you taught us in the past, we are using it, but it seems not to be working on this current type of stuff. And this brings into question, for instance, a study report from LinkedIn, which found out that 74% of the sales professionals, the leaders, they are saying that, let me just say, the roles within the sales environment, it's changing, and technology is playing a key role. So really, the way we were managed and the way we managed, the environment has changed for this new crop of sales leaders.
Yeah.
And it brings into question the issue of adaptability. How are we training these new and upcoming leaders to be adaptable, to start moving? Because now technology is fast approaching. Now we are having issues with, for instance, apologies.
Yeah, sure.
We're having issues with AI and people using technology to do their reports and to reach out there. We are looking at impact of AI on marketing. So as a sales leader, you would realize that the environment is changing rapidly and adaptability becomes one of the key things. I want to find out how key is this finding from LinkedIn, adaptability, that we need to start building their capacities and their resilience on how they can be adaptable through the process.
Trust me, adaptability, or you may call it malleability, it's and it should be at the heart of every salesperson, because today you find yourself. Let me just break it down. You are in Accra, and you are asked to, or you are doing very well in Accra. Super guy, results, numbers are coming through. And then they say, oh, because you are doing well, let's say Kufuor is struggling, Eastern region is struggling. So we need you to go there and do your magic there.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you start giving excuses and all those things. But if you are a true sales guy who needs to have adaptability or malleability at the center of whatever you do, it should happen. So adaptability is so key to our sales work, because at any point in time you can be moved from one geographical area to a different geographical area. You can be moved from one channel to another channel and all of them. So that one we cannot do anything about. And now the issue of AI. Interestingly, the world is moving into a space where, whether we like it or not, we are going to live with a continuously increasing and improving tech world. Technology would keep advancing. There'll come a time where even when the salesperson can, let me just look for the weird thing to do now, because there's a technology. Before you get to the store, you can even place your orders before you go and do your sales. So many things are happening, generating reports and all of them. So if you want to be a sales leader today, you've just begun sales. Let me just speak to our young salespeople, and you want to be a sales leader. One of the things you need to develop is adaptability. How are you able to fit into every situation, every environment, every space that you find yourself? In sales, we don't say, if you are that kind of person, unfortunately, you might not go far in sales. So that is one bit of what we currently have. And then now the AI thing. Listen, if you need to take courses in technology or IT just to improve yourself, please do it. Because in the world where we find ourselves, there will be a time we have to avoid a brick and mortar sales and get into the space where you sit behind your PC and do some things, and then you sell your proposals and all of them. We'll get to that time. So if you are very rigid in your orientation, rigid in your way of doing things, please, it is time for you to adapt. And if you're not ready to adapt, unfortunately, you may have to look for another profession, because sales needs adaptability at the heart of its way of doing things. That's what I can say about it. Yeah.
No, quite interesting, and you know, and the way you put it also. The reason is this. I'm sure you would have observed over the years, if there is any professional group, any category of staff who do not learn, who do not advance in education, advance in certification, professional certification, then it is the salesperson. Why? Because they are busy. Why? Because they are running the numbers. Why? Because the employers want them on the field. And therefore, they don't build enough capacity in order to be ready for leadership. For instance, now to be able to run a team, data analytics is a very important tool that salespeople must have. How do we resolve this? How do we get our team members to start understanding that, in fact, there's not the technical people that must be professional in nature, but we must consistently learn, understand the environment. This whole issue about tech and the environment, this whole issue about AI, how does it involve us? And they must learn. How do we get them to get to that level?
So one of the things I wrote here as one thing that I'll talk about is, as a salesperson, if you want to be a sales leader, if you want to get to the epicenter or the apex of sales,
Yeah.
be ready to learn and improve yourself on a daily basis. I don't think there's anything that one can call, oh, it's not important, I won't read, I'm not going to do it. I mean, because I was a salesman before I became MD. And if I said that I was going to just focus on, if I don't see anything, I won't learn, I wouldn't have gotten this role, or I wouldn't be in this position. You should be ready to learn and read anything that comes into your field. You spoke about AI. It's gone 10, 15 years ago. Nobody cared about AI or whatever. Oh, when you're a good salesman, you know your numbers, you go, you challenge, you're able to get your figures done. But now things have changed. All of a sudden, things have changed. Even to the extent that even sales professionals are told to now do emotional intelligence training, personality traits, personality profiles, and all of them. So many things are coming up. If you are a salesperson and you are not ready to improve yourself, you're not ready to learn, you're not ready to burn the midnight candle to be able to learn something that you don't know, you'll be left behind. I've never stopped work to go to school. No, since I finished University of Ghana some years ago, it's been on the job. You get some time, you go and learn, you come back. That's how it is. And those who read the profile, I've done, apart from MBA, which all sales people are doing, all of them, I also took a course in international affairs and diplomacy. It is not necessarily meant for the sales, but I knew that I took that course almost 8-9 years ago. I was preparing myself for, okay, one day maybe I'm going to head a big business, a multinational business. I didn't know by then whether I was going to even be an MD, but I'm like, let me just go learn international affairs, international business, learn a few things about it, because one day I may get it. And lo and behold, after I finished that program 2020 or something, 5 years down the line, this is where I find myself. So if I decided to say, oh, I'm here, forget about it. If the opportunity came and I was not ready, what will become of it? And unfortunately, the opportunities at the top is like the pyramid, which we all know. The higher you go, the less the opportunities. So there should be something that should distinguish you from the mass or from the lot, that the person hiring you. So this guy can deliver something. And usually it's not about the core thing that we have learned, but they are the other things that we add on to whatever we have learned that sets us apart from the lot. So I would encourage salespeople, listen, everything is important. Read, develop yourself. You need to cut your sleep. Do that. At least it's for a period. After that period, you get a paper, you move on. Somebody will think, oh, Opa, this you. But years down the line, that paper that you acquired, it becomes that differentiating factor in your life.
No, one interesting thing. I had an uncle that now decided to get a name for me. He calls me Papa School. So when he sees you, you greet him and he says, oh yeah, Papa School. Because you like too much school, you're always learning, you're always in one school or the other. But let me balance this and then speak for my young and next generation. Are we not expecting too much of them? Have we prepared them enough to expect this of them? I think that, and I agree also that their generation is different from ours. The generation where you come already driven, already focused, and doing your masters and waiting for some job that might never come, that generation is past, and we need to recognize that. And that we need to now prepare them for the next type of generation, where in order to get them to do the masters, the leaders must encourage the leaders must be involved, involved in the discussions. Are we not expecting too much? And this is dovetailing into the whole question of mentorship and coaching. Have we designed enough programs within the organization today that seeks to mentor and coach the next generation? Have we?
Let me just answer this the other way around, and then I'll end on the point that you made. I think that I don't know whether any of us expected that Trump was going to win and he was going to pass 200 executive orders on day one, but it has come to pass.
Yeah.
I think the world is even moving faster than we are even imagining, and so many things are happening faster. In this current generation, things are even faster because of technology than what it used to be in the early 2000s or in the late 90s. So it is even more incumbent on the individuals to get themselves into that shape, and then also the organizations. You see, I don't know whether when I say it, I feel guilty because yesterday I was just having a chat with my HR and they were like, for you, every day you come to me, you want we have to spend. When are you going to bring cost cutting? Paul, I can't cut. If I cut, I'll have to cut training, I have to cut. And I'm like, I'm tempted to cut training, cut some of the things that we do, learning and development. But then I remember that I have this session, so I have to be careful. I can't go and cut plenty like that, otherwise it's going to affect people's training and the rest. But it's become increasingly difficult. The fact of the matter is that it's become difficult because there's pressure on the budget, there's pressure on cost, there's pressure on the numbers. So organizations, hitherto what they used to do, hosting people, getting this thing, it's become people are now being mindful of it and seeing how they can. So it's practically becoming a difficult thing for organizations to do. So when you say that, are we not expecting too much? Have we done enough? I don't think organizations can ever do enough, because the way the world is tilting towards, there will constantly be pressure on the budget. So we will not be able to do enough of that. But then the person, the individual, at the end of the day, it comes back to the individual. The organization can just do but just enough. But you, the organization, can do, you, the individual, can do a lot. We are not expecting much of this generation because of the times in which we find ourselves. I think that we need to do as much as we can do. Like I've given my example, however difficult, however tough the pressure will be on the budget, we need to commit to some training. We need to commit to some mentorship. We need to commit to some coaching, so that we can be sure that when we leave the scene, we would have future leaders to take over from wherever we left it.
Because
Yeah.
my brother, personally, I think that this whole conversation, and as you see, we've even started it on the national level, needs to be had.
Yeah.
There ought to be some deliberate attempt to building this next generation. There should be deliberate investments into programs. You see, we all say it, we all know it, that the most sustainable competitive advantage is your people.
Sorry, say that again. I
The
missed that
most
last part.
sustainable
Mhm.
competitive advantage any company can have is the people.
Of course, it's true. Yeah.
But look at the training budget and look at other activities. So where your strength is not where we are putting the money. And
This one, I'm feeling guilty.
and the question I said, these participants, this young sales leader asked me, now becomes really critical. That in order to get what we want from these young people, this next generation of sales leaders, then we ought to be deliberate. So, for instance, setting up a mentorship and a coaching program has now become a must for every organization. Just to be able to, because this whole argument about learn, read, build yourself up, somebody must consistently be telling them. And these things can be driven through this whole environment of, coaching and mentoring. But as we end, I see my time is running out. As we end, I want to end with some question on, and you can't do sales, conversation without salespeople trying to look for strategies. So I want you to advise the young, the next generation out there. I want you to advise the sales leaders, the current sales leaders that are out there. What are some of the strategies that you would recommend that will help them manage and motivate the next generation into very successful sales leaders? What are some of the things you would say?
Let me start by saying that I'll start with the individual. I know it's a very tough thing to say, but that's the reality, because I don't know how many of us know Vince Lombardi. Vince Lombardi was a coach of Green Bay Packers. Is an American football team. He took over the team when the team was at its lowest ebb. Is an American football team. And one thing that he said, that which people have now termed the Lombardi model, is only by knowing yourself can you become an effective leader. Only by knowing yourself can you become an effective leader. So that's where everything starts and ends, about you, the leader, knowing yourself and what you want to become or what you want to be. Because I started by saying that the organization can do but just enough, knowing very well the constraints. And I'm in the situation, so I can tell you for free that when the first thing that when your global bosses would ask you, where can you get savings? First thing you think about, cutting people costs, cutting trainings and the rest. Because the rest we need to pay salaries, make sure we are spending on marketing, all of the people cost become. So there will be constant pressure on the budgets for people development. But when you as an individual, one, you know yourself, you know whatever you want to be, what you are out there to deliver. And to this I'm speaking to sales leaders. Listen, once you know yourself and you know what you want to be, you go for the goal that you set for yourself. Because at the end of the day, I've also said that the opportunities at the top are very limited. Because imagine you are a number of regional managers and there's only one head of sales at a time. So if you are 5 regional sales managers, only one person can be the head of sales at a particular point in time.
Yeah.
So it just tells you that the opportunities up there are very limited. The organization can just do but enough. But it's what you do as an individual, how you decide to develop yourself, how you decide to work on yourself, how you decide to invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. It is very important. How you decide to invest in yourself and prepare yourself for that next level. It's very, very important. The second thing I'll say is that, listen, keep an open mind. Stay positive. Keeping an open mind also ties into the malleability and adaptability discussion that Michael spoke about. Keeping an open mind, listen, anything can happen, but I'm going to keep an open mind. I'm going to remain positive. I'm going to aim for the goal. I'm not going to let the things around me distract me from the core thing that I need to do. Because you could have, let me just give an interesting example, being very mindful of time. The distributor can promise you, Charlie, I'm going to, this month we're delivering. All of a sudden, by the 20th, you see that the distributors' wares and the team, they start stuttering on what they need to deliver. But you still stay positive. You look up, you still keep your eye on the ball and do whatever it takes to be able to deliver whatever you've committed to do. Because I said that for a salesperson, your numbers are vital. Your numbers actually makes you, if you are as good as your numbers. If your numbers can't speak for you, then forget about it. You can use all the nice English words and jargons that you know, all the vocabulary that you have, but your numbers is very important. Me saying that also means that you always have to stay on top of numbers. If you want to be a sales leader and you're not good with your numbers, please go back and refresh. You can always learn, and there's adult education. Don't feel shy to read, don't feel shy to learn, because that forms part of developing yourself. So I've said 3 things. One, you need to know yourself, you need to know the kind of personality that you have. Stay positive, stay open-minded, but more importantly, invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. At least the times where you need to go and spend some time with the boys out there, try and cut it about an hour or two, and then go and try and get something developing yourself, and then you can go and spend, because you need to also have fun. Life is not all about being studious, being in the office, and all. Life is also, you need to have add fun to it, but try and keep things within. Try and know your boundaries, your limits as to how you need to do things, because the fact of the matter is that this life that we have is one. If you decide to spend on doing other things, don't be envious of the fact. Don't be envious when you see your friends and your colleagues going up, because they've decided that, listen, they would invest in themselves, they'll aim for the top, they'll work at it, they are prepared to go through the process to be able to snap one of the positions up there. So that is how I'm going to end. I'm going to say, and I just want to say that, listen, these are just things that we are sharing with you. I know the reality on the ground is tough, but even in the midst of the storm, there's always a way out. Even in the midst of a difficulty, people still are standing out. So you can also be one of the few who are fortunate to be able to grab the position at the top. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul. There's a lot that I've written down, and I hope our listeners were also writing. We have drive, building that drive, having that drive, wanting to be that leader, willingness to learn and to be, get into the process, being resource oriented, a number of things that you've spoken about. By this time, let me open up if there are any questions from our audience. If there's any questions, those that want to type can type it in, and if you want to ask it, you can just raise your hand. Let's call you to ask it. We still have Mr. Paul Dona, the country manager for Ghana and which country else? Charlie, you are big
minus Nigeria and Senegal. So they are all export countries for Allah, yeah. So
yes, and you are one man doing all of that.
I have a team, don't worry. I'm just leading it. There's a team that is doing all the hard work on the ground. Yes.
We still have Paul here. If you have any questions or comments, we'll be happy to respond to these questions.
Hello.
Yes. Who do we have?
This is Kofi Ebo.
Hello, Kofi.
Thank you very much, first of all, for the opportunity, and thank you for the insight. I am concerned with the background, Michael, you built that led to Paul answering that we need to build the adaptability. Listening to the background you built, first of all, would you agree with me that frontline sales is becoming extinct? If you agree, and then coupled with the fact that Paul mentioned that up the sales ladder, the opportunities are limited. I don't know, but I am tempted to think that apart from it being limited, it's gradually also becoming extinct. In that sense, where would you position sales leadership when, in actual fact, sales itself, and then the channels, if you look at the omni channels and others people are building now, it's gradually becoming extinct. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Paul, you want to take that?
No, go ahead and say what you want to say about it.
So maybe I take the first part and then you take the second one. And the question was really the frontline sales. Is it not becoming extinct? And my brother, that is not the case. We are tended to overrate the impact of sales, the impact of technology in our daily activities. I can tell you that there is a consistent increase in demand for frontline salespeople. There are various products. As much as technology is coming up, as we keep on expanding our economy, there are new products, new product line, new service delivery lines, and the need for salespeople keep on growing. And I run an HR recruitment firm, and I can tell you for a fact that the demand keeps going up. Recently, I was having a conversation with one of the CEOs of one of the insurance organizations that are looking to recruit 1,000 more people. If you go into the manufacturing or trading environment, there is a consistent need to have boots on the ground. So as much as the dynamics is being affected by technology, as much as we have multiple channels to be able to distribute our goods, there is still an increasing need for these frontline staff. So yes, they are not extinct. If you want to now send that into your second question, if then there would be a need for this frontline staff, then there's definitely a need to manage them. So let's take these organizations. I wish I could mention the name. That is looking for 1,000 sales force. Now, 1,000 sales force probably would be broken down into groups of 25, and each 25 would have a manager. And then maybe 5, 6 managers would also have what we call a zonal manager. So the need is there. And as we keep on growing, especially when we're looking at various product lines, when we're looking at competition within the environment, if now there were areas that they didn't even need salespeople in the past. For instance, in the health sector, in terms of even hospitals. Now you have private hospitals recruiting salespeople, recruiting marketers in order to be able to send their services out there. And it's quite interesting. You have hospitals having boots on the ground. And so, yes, as much as technology is taking over, it's coming up, the need for the frontline team has also been greater, and it keeps on growing. Paul, if you have any to
Yeah, let me just add to it that even in churches and other institutions that previously didn't need salespeople, now they all want salespeople and marketeers because they want to brand, have good branding out there, make sure people know what they are doing and all of them. So yes, the need would always be there. But the one at the top, you see, I don't think it's just applicable to sales leaders or sales leaders at the top. It cuts across every facet of life. For instance, there are 275 MPs or 276 MPs in Ghana, but there's only one speaker. And I guess all the MPs, some ways, when you look into their heart of hearts and you ask them, most of them are aspiring to be president. There can only be one president. So the situation at the top would always be as it is. But that's not to say that people shouldn't have that aspiration, because it's not as if we are going to create 10 head of sales or 10 national sales, but it's not possible. We just have one NSM at any point in time. But there are other roles. Salespeople, for me, are also very versatile. There are other roles and functions that will come up as you go up, as you decide to improve and develop yourself, as you decide to study, go to the process and learn. There are opportunities that will come up aside going to the top top being a sales leader. Other things can always come up. So it's not because I don't need to say that, oh, no, it's always limited at the top. It will always be that pyramid thing. But then there are other opportunities that exist aside going to be the main guy on top in sales. Yeah.
Well, an interesting question, and a question that, let me see who's asking this question, because I side with the person. So this one I'm not going to answer. We are going to ask you. We have Isaac Amuzu Yabua. And Isaac, I agree with you, because let me read the question to you. And he says that there are some CEOs who stall or delay company growth in fear of losing control. How do we handle them as sales managers? And the reason why I agree with him is that most of the time when we look at sales problem, we always look at it from the sales individual, the sales leader, and the company seems to now say you should be motivated. And honestly, I think that time has passed, where people will come already driven, motivated, ready to get to the top, ready to sell. No, it has passed. Now we need to cultivate them into those things. But Isaac's problem is this. some of you CEOs, you are afraid of losing control. So you stall us. You stall us. How do sales managers handle people like you?
Let me answer straight. The first answer that came to mind when I read it was that, listen, the CEO would never be there in perpetuity. There'll come a time he would also leave. But that's just on the flip side. The fact of the matter is that the CEO, it's not as if we fear control, but there are pressures that come that maybe he cannot tell you all over the place. Maybe there's a board who is coming asking him to do things. So sometimes they tend to limit what when it comes to people development, what we need to do. It is not as if they fear control. Of course, there are some who also fear that when you know too much, you can come and displace them. But that is, for me, that is mediocre in thinking, because at the end of the day, you will not always be there. I know this is my I'm in my second year or third year, second year as country manager for Allah. I will not be there forever. And it is even the right thing for me to develop my people who my current management team, so that today when I'm moved out or I go somewhere else, they can also take over. Because you the CEO, your good deeds or your credibility also comes in the fact that you were able to develop other leaders apart from you. When you are the only people everybody comes to, you wear out. So it is incumbent on CEOs and MDs to make sure that they are empowering and developing the next generation of sales leaders, and not just fear control. You will not always be there. That's by way of my answer, please.
So on Facebook, you get one of the typical questions. You get it all the time when you run a sales training. How do I constantly get those numbers? It says for salespeople, for sales leaders, your numbers are important. The numbers is key. How do I? It's not like how do I get the numbers, but how do I make it consistent?
So I see some of my sales leaders on the call. One thing I tell them is, as a salesperson, always have month plus 2 and month plus 3 in mind. We are in March. You should have a plan for April, May, March, June, because the dynamics are different in every month. Secondly, for every salesperson, you know where your strengths are. If you are selling products, you know that there are some products that are always they are the main bets. You definitely do it. So how do you manage and maneuver the strong ones with the weaker ones, and what are the activities that you would have in mind? If you don't have the month plus 3 in mind, you can do everything in 1 month, and then the next month comes and you find yourself begging. So there are 2 things that I'll say here. One, have the month plus 3 always in mind, and then always look at your low-hanging fruits, the high ones, and how you can balance them. Because the months are never the same. The products are never the same. That's why you have a portfolio that you are dealing with. So at any point in time, you are able to juggle in between. I tell my team that, listen, whilst you are delivering March, have April in mind. What are the plans that you put in place to be able to deliver April? Because for salesperson, it's not I deliver 1 month, I miss 1 month. It is the consistency that makes you the person, that makes you the truly reliable person. If you're not consistent with your numbers, forget about it.
And we have a a question from YouTube that came from Rejoice Asante, and Rejoice was asking, do we have the skills to fill the demand for frontline staff? Rejoice, I want us to take it from 2 dimensions, my dimension, and then I would ask Paul also from his dimension. Because for me, I think that the skills are not there. They are not just available, but it can be developed. And therefore, we need to start rebranding the whole environment of sales. We need to start setting structures within organization that make sales attractive, that will now draw people into wanting to become salespeople. And then once we are able to get them also, we need to start, building their capacity, encouraging and supporting them to be successful. But to have what we had in the past, where people are driven to come and do sales, to come and it's not there. It's not there. It's becoming a difficult thing for a lot of organizations. And yes, we need to. There's a lot of work. And one of the things that we need to do is what we are doing today, to continue having the conversation on sales and to be able to brand sales in a way that looks more presentable and gets people to come. Paul, I don't know if you have a response to Rejoice on that one. Do we
No,
have
I think I think you've practically said it all. The truth of the matter is that the demand would always be there. I would rather ask whether we have the right supply of salespeople to meet the demand out there. And I think we've discussed that earlier in our conversation. But I believe that there would always be demand for salespeople, regardless of, because now sales permeates and cuts across. One of the things I remember that stuck with me during the first edition of the National Sales Leaders Conference was the fact that now sales permeates through all industries.
Yeah.
Sales permeates through all. So don't think of the previous brick and mortar one, the FMCG. Now there's insurance, there's banking, there's even, I said, church, hospitality, so many things. So don't just focus on selling products, selling the hard product. No, but there sales cuts across every facet of our lives. So there will always be demand. Yeah.
I think a lot of time has been spent. We had a question from, for instance, Isaac, who was asking, can you share some advice on how to overcome the challenges of limited budget? You know, how do we grow? How do we become better within an environment where the organization is saying there's limited budget? Any advice for Isaac?
I'll say focus. The budget will never be enough for everything, but you need to prioritize, have a scale of preference, prioritize and focus. That's what I'll say to it. Because it will never be enough. You can't do everything, but that's one thing that you have identified based on your priorities that you have set. Focus on it. When you are done, you can move on to the next thing because you never have enough.
And then Bernard Asante says that I think as much as we need to develop ourselves as sales managers, we also need mentorship and coaching from our managers. We should be given some roles to play as we can be equipped adequately. Basically, what he's saying is that, and I'm sure he's speaking to you, Paul, and to the other
I know.
managers and business owners that are here, that there's a need. There's a need to equip them. There's a need to encourage them. And therefore, putting together this coaching and mentoring programs within the organizations would really help. And also allowing them to also, try their hands at, managing these people. There's one of the organizations, for instance, where we instituted not like a full manager. So in between the manager, we had team leads. So once you are performing within the team, we give you some few of your team members and manage them. And that is basically, building your capacity and training you to come and take up the next level of position. Paul, any last words? As our time is fast spent. Any last words?
I think we've said enough. I believe that there will always be opportunities, but when the opportunities come, are you prepared for the opportunity? And the only way to prepare yourself, the organization will do its part, but more importantly, it has to be with you. When the opportunity comes and you don't have that skill set for it, you will be ignored. There will definitely be somebody who will be prepared. Be the one who will be prepared, and you get to the top. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you very much. I think our conversation would end here, and we'll thank you very much for having time for us. I know you are not well, but you still, presenting yourself as strong and having this conversation with
you don't have a choice.
and I'm sure
that
our audience is also very happy and has been well educated today. The MGA series continues. I will hand over to Joycelyn. But the next topic for next week will be communicated. I would encourage you to join us on our channel. David would put our channel online. Please can join our WhatsApp channel and let's continue the discussions there. Paul will be there. I will be there. Ask your questions and then we'll be able to give you some answers that would help you. Thank you very much. Joycelyn, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think it's been a very great and insightful session. with a lot of discussions going on. Personally, some key takeaways for me is the bit about we having the drive and willingness to excel, and being ambitious and having the desire to go beyond and achieve great things. And that we should prepare ourselves for every opportunity that comes our way. So we are grateful to each and everyone for your time, for joining this session. And as Michael mentioned, our MGA Dialogue series continues every month. And we look forward to having you join the session subsequently in the next month. Now, we would also entreat you to join, to follow us on our social media platforms and our WhatsApp channel for further details and information about our webinar and our services. And also, MGA Consulting is available to help upskill and shape the future of your professionals, be it sales professionals and other teams through our training sessions. So we look forward to you contacting us and helping you to provide our services. Thank you all very much for your time and hope to see you in our next dialogue series. Sorry, one last thing. We also have an upcoming launch, the National Sales Leaders Conference, which is coming on Friday at 11 a.m. So you're all invited to join the session virtually. You can register and join and participate in these discussions about sales leadership, and where we have CEOs coming together to network and share invites on it. So further details is also available on our WhatsApp channel. So kindly follow us and get more information. Thank you all so much and enjoy the rest of your day.